Hello and welcome back to another video with me, Michelle Fortier, a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Florida. I am going to be going over how to build a life worth living with your incarcerated client. So this video is going to be more focused towards people that are working in corrections as mental health professionals or working as staff in the prison environment. You can also use this for our clients out here too. It's not like it is only inmates that need life worth living goals. Anybody doing DBT needs a life worth living goal. However, the ideas that I'm going to be giving are really targeted towards inmates. So first off, I'm going to go over how DBT views life worth living and suicidal behaviors, because I'm going to go read it. I think it'll make more sense if I do that. So in DBT, we see suicidal behaviors. They are seen as solutions to a problem. One problem that suicidal behaviors are trying to fix is the immense suffering that people with BPD and BPD traits have in their lives. And Marcia, she writes, although therapists may believe that a life of any quality is worth living, the lives of many borderline individuals come perilously close near the edge. Whether their intense suffering is a result of their own behavior or of uncontrollable environmental events is irrelevant. Suffering is suffering. Indeed, one can make the case that keeping a patient alive with an untenable life is no admirable feat. This position has led me to assert that DBT is not a suicide prevention program, but a life improvement program. The desire to commit suicide, however, has at its base a belief that life cannot or will not improve. Although that may be the case in some instances, it is not true in all instances. Death, however, rules out hope in all instances. We do not have any data indicating that people who are dead lead better lives. And I absolutely adore that last sentence. I've got little stars next to it because sometimes when I'm working with a particular client that is really dead set that the suicide is the solution to the problem, I trot that out. I think it's kind of like a form of irreverence. And we're saying, okay, you're saying that dead might be better. However, the data indicates that if we do DBT, you have a better chance of living a life that you're actually happy with. But we have no evidence that dead people lead any happier lives. And so what this means is that DBT is not something where we just stop suicide. The thought is that is cruel, just to keep somebody alive for the sake of being alive. So with DBT, we are actually helping the client to build a life that they actually want to live, one that they want to continue. In the beginning, though, before we do this, we do have to keep them alive, even though it's painful. We have to work with them in developing a life that they want to stay living in. And so when we're doing this with inmates, some people even out here are like, oh, if they have a life sentence, what is the point of going on? Blah, 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 blah. I know for a fact that there are individuals that have life sentences that have built wonderful lives behind prison. Is it the life that they would have chosen for themselves to begin with? Absolutely not. Is it a life that they are content living? Absolutely. I remember working with one where he was the piano player down in the chapel. He adored playing the piano. They called him the piano man. That was what kept him going and alive. I've also met people that have life sentences where they have become mentors to people that are there for a short amount of time. So there is more. There is a great chance that they can live a life that they're actually content in. It is our job as clinicians to help them identify what's going to make their life worth living and then guide them to use skills to be able to get there. And so we're going to have to figure out with the client what's motivating them. In Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and I would give that book out to lifers all the time. When they'd be like, oh, it's not fair, I'm here. And I'm like, okay, here's this Jewish guy that was sent to the camps. All his family was murdered, and he could figure out how to make his life have meaning. pretty sure with you, and he did nothing wrong except existing, I'm sure that with you who committed these crimes that had you here in a life sentence, you can figure out how to make it where your life has some meaning. And so I used to give that book out. And the thing about him is he said, if a man has a reason why to live, he can live with any how. So even in logotherapy, we're helping the client identify their meaning of life. In DBT, we're looking for their life worth living goals, what they want to achieve. And so some of the things that I can give you, some of the suggestions that I've had clients that they have life sentences or long sentences and they really want to go home. And we have to make sure that their behaviors stay in line, that if given the opportunity to have the courts review their sentence, that they get to go before a judge, especially with minors that were sentenced to life and have to have their sentences revisited, that their behaviors show the court that they are rehabilitated. So if they are getting in trouble, if they're not following the rules and they're like, what's the point? We have to help them understand, okay, you want to go home. What do you think will be the factors that interfere with you going home? And how do you think we can manage that? So if your client's goal is to get out of prison with a long sentence, you're going to want to encourage them to be more skillful so that way they look better in the courts, and that they also develop the skills to stay out of prison should they get out of prison. What's the point of fighting to get out of prison and you haven't figured out how to manage your emotions, how to figure out how to control your impulsive behavior? I mean, you're going to fight that hard just to come back? Like, that makes zero sense to me. So I would go over that with them. Then there's also some inmates where they feel so terrible about themselves. They feel like they're nothing. They feel like they're broken. They feel like they're terrible. And so their life worth living goal might be to increase their feelings of self-worth, feel like they're accomplishing something in this life, that they're doing something worthwhile. And in that way, you can help link them to different groups in the prison environment, help them develop relationships and friendships. I know this for a fact. Some of the people that have been released, they still continue their friendships and their relationships with people that they met while they were in prison. And in fact, they consider those to be their closest friends, that they have never had that level of friendship with free world people. And so they can build those friendships, they can build those relationships, and they can continue those friendships once they leave the prison system. And they can do this by doing things that are similar, reaching out and joining different groups, working out on the rec field together, joining the sports teams out there. I mean, there was even, I know at our prison, there's like a whole D&D group, and they would sit there and play their little D&D. They had their dungeon master, they had all of that. And that's what kept them going and improved their self-worth, and they improved their connections with other people. Then there's also, you have inmates that they want to improve their relationships with their families. And part of that is being able to get a good adjustment transfer to go move closer home. If this is the case, they might need coaching to be able to stay out of confinement, to stay away from DRs, to get their gain time ratings up there where they're qualified to put in a good adjustment transfer. I will never forget one client that I worked with so intensely to get him his good adjustment transfer. And it was about coaching him and having him reach out when he felt like he wanted to act impulsively, when he wanted to act violently. And this is somebody where, I kid you not, he had been on CM at one point and lit his bunkie on fire. So with this particular person, it was reminding him every time that he wanted to show out, every time that he felt like, I got to do something. My dude, your goal is to get closer to your people. You have said that that is something that you very much value, something that is a goal of yours. And I would coach him, remind him of his life worth living goals, remind him that his behavior that he is wanting to do is ineffective for that. And the amount of pride that he had, he walked in and said, Mrs. Fortier, I'm actually able to put in my good adjustment transfer. And the amount of happiness I felt that I was able to help him achieve that goal was immense. And in an environment where sometimes the job seems insurmountable, it can feel very rewarding as a clinician to have helped somebody to achieve that. And so it's also really reinforcing for the clinician themselves when they help their client reach their life worth living goal. We also have some inmates that they keep going to the box all the time. They keep going to confinement, and they want at least that little bit of freedom of not going to confinement. So we're going to help them have that life worth living goal. Some people want to save up money before they get released from prison. So if they are eligible based on their crimes and all that other stuff, we can help them with that life worth living goal of getting to a work release center or meeting the qualifications for going into Pride. So there's all these different ways that we can help them find their life worth living goal. It's also been where for some other people, I want to stay free once I get out of prison. What do I need to do that? It's helping them figure out trades that they can learn. It's helping them figure out how to get involved with outside groups that might be helping them when they release. It might be building up relationships with people that when they get out are going to help keep them grounded and centered and stabilized. It could also be where we're helping them learn skills that help them stay mindful, not lose their tempers, be able to manage emotions effectively. So I cannot say this enough. If you are going to be doing DBT in the prison environment, one of the first things to really do with your inmates is to figure out what it is that they want out of their life in the confines that they have. Once you're able to do that, then you're able to get buy-in and all the different techniques that you can use to be able to help them live the best life that they can possibly live. Without that, and I always like to say it like this, if we don't have a destination on the map, how are we going to know how to get there? I always say there's 10,000, that's an exaggeration, but a lot of CVS's in Tallahassee. And if I just say I want to go to CVS, what does that mean? Which CVS? What location? And it's the same thing. When an inmate says, I want to stay out of trouble. Which kind of trouble? Why do you want to stay out of that trouble? What is the purpose of staying out of that trouble? So we really also want to narrow in on the destination, what that looks like, and describing it using our describe skill, where we're saying who, what, when, and where, and figuring out what that goal actually looks like. Because from one person, getting closer to family might mean one thing. For another person, it can mean something completely different. So really clarifying that goal, making sure that you're on the same page as your client, so that way you can help them achieve that goal, that y'all have a common language. I hope that this video helps. If you liked it, subscribe so that way you can get some more. Share it with other clinicians that you might think it might help them. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out by email, and that's in my description. And you can also just write a comment in the comment section, and I could try to answer it. Any other questions, like I said, put in the comment section. Take care.